The mark of the beast on this interpretation would be some sort of allegiance to Nero, not a literal mark. We know it's not a literal mark or tattoo or ID chip because the mark of God, not the mark of the beast, but the mark of God is not literal. When the 144,000 are sealed in their foreheads with the mark of the Lord, that is apocalyptic imagery from the Old Testament. Remember how the Shema was to be written on the foreheads of the Jews? Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one, etc. That's the Shema. And some Jews today, and I suppose back in those days as well, have taken that a bit too literally and wear a small box strapped to their forehead with the Shema written inside on paper. Those Jews are respecting the Torah, which is a beautiful thing, but if they think that is what Moses intended them to do, they are misinterpreting. It's a bit silly, really, if you think about it. Since the mark of God is not literal, the mark of the beast is not literal either. By the way, all these Left Behind type movies seem to think that it is the revelation of the Antichrist. Not so. It is the revelation of Jesus Christ. When the focus is taken off of him and placed on his impostor, why, that is an indication that the futurist interpretation has gone vastly astray. The next part of Revelation I'd like to address is the millennium. The millennium only gets one chapter in the entire book, so we should be careful not to expect it to be too clear to us. Nevertheless, based on a preterist reading of the rest of Revelation, and perhaps the appropriate Old Testament passages as well, the ones dealing with the millennium, it seems the millennium is a real event, an event that is simultaneous with the end times or the last days properly understood, namely the church age. Satan has been defeated at the cross, so he is chained up but not totally out of the picture yet. Think of all the demonic activity during Jesus' ministry. I presume there are so few demoniacs now, at least that I'm aware of, in part because Satan is active, though defeated and more restrained, chained up, as John tells us. Also, lives are a lot longer now than they were in antiquity. Long and healthy lives are a major feature of the millennium. Mayhaps living to be 60, 70, 80, or beyond is a sign we are living in the millennium today already. So to live to be 100 wasn't really heard of in the New Testament times. Well, I suppose it happened on occasion, but a lot of women died in childbirth, and a lot of people died from diseases that if they had lived today, they wouldn't have died from those sorts of things. One major problem with my view, the preterist view, is that it places Revelation prior to 70 A.D., and most biblical scholars, even conservative Christian biblical scholars, would place the book of Revelation about 90 A.D. This view is not without its problems, as I already indicated at the beginning and just now again. But I think it makes the best sense of all available biblical data. It makes the best sense of all the options that are currently available on the eschatological table for our consideration. I think it is more plausible than futurism. The development and expanded use of the RFID chip, though, is also a problem for preterism and something I'm keeping my eye on. So there's many problems with this view, but there's many problems with the other views as well. At any rate, preterism is at least one possibility among many and should not be rejected a priori. It is worthy of your consideration, and it is most certainly not a heresy. I believe Hal Lindsey has gone on record saying just that preterism is a heresy. I I think that, don't quote me on that, but that's what I believe I've heard secondhand. Let there be no ambiguity about it. It's not heresy. It's an acceptable Orthodox conservative Christian view. And it's really not as radical as it may at first appear. It does not reject the possibility or actuality of predictive prophecy in the Bible. It affirms predictive prophecy, and Revelation is still a meaningful book in our present context. It reveals Jesus as the God in control of history just as much on preterism as on futurism. If and when we face persecution for righteousness' sake, it comforts and edifies us no less on a preterist reading. In conclusion, a preteristic revelation is both glorifying to Christ, the one who is revealed, and it's a fitting culmination to salvation history. Thanks for watching, and shalom out.